Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the owner and founder of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and I'm going to talk about another one of my favorite topics today, which is about our needs. And people talk about needs all the time, and I've actually had some really amazing questions from people who have sort of reached out and been like, I don't know where to start or how to identify my needs, and that's part of why I'm specifically making this video. But so much of why we're in a relationship in the first place is based on, at a subconscious level, our perception of ourselves being able to get needs met through a relationship and the importance of this. And I'll go into detail in a moment about what that really means, because it can kind of sound like relationships are this selfish thing, but there's this deep need we have for love and connection, for meaning, and we're wired for these different things. And so relationships are a really important way of getting those things met. So today I want to talk specifically about what our basic needs are, some strategies we normally use to get them met, the importance of our needs altogether, because they play such a massive and crucial role on how we feel, how we show up in a relationship, how we feel about the relationship itself, and how, grateful and fulfilled we feel in our lives or don't feel according to our experiences. And then I'm going to go through with you just some strategies to really be clear about your needs. And if there's a place that you feel disempowered needs-wise, some solutions and tools to help you better get these needs met and be more conscious and aware about what's going on in your subconscious mind this entire time that you're not feeling empowered. So, first and foremost, if you don't know what your needs are, it will be next to impossible to get your needs met. It's like, if I don't know what my needs are to begin with, how can I possibly go about getting them met from myself or from anybody else? Okay? And we have 6 basic human needs. And out of these 6 basic human needs come all of our secondary needs and tertiary needs. And our secondary needs, and without making this like really confusing or complicated, our secondary needs are sort of part of our identity. So I'll give you an example. One of our basic human needs is for love and connection. Now, based on positive versus negative associations to different ways we can get this need met, we form part of our identity. So for example, if I have a really strong need for love and connection, and let's say I don't get it as a child from friendships or from romantic relationships in early adult life, and I don't really get a lot of it from family. Let's say I've got, issues at home. Maybe I get my need for love and connection met through animals. And in that case, I might, consider myself an animal person and talk about animals a lot and surround myself with animals and, have tons of animals in my life, work as a veterinarian or at an animal hospital or something. And in that case, that will be a big part of my identity. So our secondary needs are a little bit closer to our conscious mind, essentially. And so basically, your secondary needs will be more of a conscious part of your identity. What you tend to identify with is your sense of self. And when we feel like our needs are violated, it's as if we feel like our sense of self is violated. So going back to that same example, let's say, you have this strong need for love and connection. And let's say that you get love and connection through family the most. Maybe going on into your adult life, you consider yourself a family man, right? And so you'll go, and always talking about your family, and always your identity is a reflection of your core needs and the strategies or ways that you're getting these needs met. So almost like the form you get these needs met through. So animals versus through family or through friendships or relationships. So let's go through our 6 basic needs and let's talk about some of the examples we can see for like the secondary needs that come out of it that we come to identify with. So number 1, love and connection. I'll use that one first. We will also value these needs in order of how much there's a perceived lack at a given period of time. And again, I don't want to complicate this too much because this is a really broad topic and there's so much rich information in here. But like, in your 6 basic human needs, usually wherever, because you're wired for all of them, like you naturally need these things. Wherever you feel a lack or a void of something, your brain, because it has a need for balance, equilibrium, homeostasis, will tend to go into like overdrive to get these needs met. So let's say, for example, you felt a lack of love and connection in childhood. You'll really want to get love and connection in your adult life. Your brain will be like in overdrive trying to get this met. Or if you felt a lot of love and connection, and then there was a painful experience where that love and connection was stripped, like let's say, mom and dad were really close, but then they both started working a lot when you were 5, 6 years old. And so you felt this like void of what you were used to, what you knew, then again, it can create this like hyper overdrive to get that need met. It can also be this case if you have like one parent who was really loving and one parent who wasn't. You're like, oh, why is there this lack of love and connection here? And so you go into overdrive to get that need met. So wherever there's like a void, it tends to create this extra strong need. So love and connection, number one. And again, like we come up with these secondary ways of getting love and connection met, and these become such a strong part of our identity. So some ways that will, our secondary needs could be things like, animals, friendships, family, romantic relationships, all these different forms that we're getting these needs met through. Okay. The next human need that we'll talk about is certainty. We have a need for certainty. We have a need to know, as we're, driving to work, that, the freeway is not going to fall apart from underneath us. Or we have this basic need that's there in the background. It's very subconscious, but it's all the time. And we need a baseline amount of certainty in order to feel like we can go about our lives. I don't know if you've ever had the experience where you feel like your certainty is taken from you. Like maybe you're, moving, or you can't find a home at the time that you're trying to buy it, whatever it is. And there's this lack of certainty, and you'll notice your brain has a hard time focusing on like day-to-day things when there's a lack of certainty that's pretty strong. And again, if you have a really high need for certainty, if you feel a lack of certainty, like, your partner is not getting back to you, and you don't know if they're okay, and you need to know that they're okay and that everything's safe, that everybody's safe, that need for certainty, when it's shaking, again, it sort of triggers this hyper overdrive to get that need met. So some different ways that we'll get the need for certainty met will be through things like structure, order, organization, clear communication, knowing, like a sense of that somebody says, yes, this is the way it's going to be, planning, like all of these things will be really important for somebody with a high need for certainty. Financial security is a big one. Just security in general, safety, right? Like these are all big things that fall under that space for that need specifically. So next thing, uncertainty. Uncertainty is really like novelty, variety, freedom, exploration, all of these key things. So sometimes we'll get that need met through travel. Part of your identity might be somebody who loves to travel a lot, who loves to explore, loves to try new things, is an adrenaline junkie, plays lots of action sports, or does extreme sports, or so all of these different pieces can be a part of your identity. And again, they're just a reflection of strategies you're using to get one of your 6 basic human needs met. Okay. And, for those of you who struggle with your sense of self or self-identity, like really doing some work here on this needs part is such an effective and amazing way to dig into yourself. And again, these are the core issues that you bring into a relationship. Like you feel fulfilled and happy in a relationship if you perceive that your needs are being met. At a deep level, your subconscious mind, every single decision it makes is actually based on trying to get a specific need met. And it sounds selfish, but at the end of the day, like as human beings, you're wired for self-preservation. And some of you will be like, no, I'm such a selfless person. Chances are, if you're so selfless and if you're always giving, it's actually because it feels good to give. It may meet one of your next basic human needs, which is contribution. Okay, so we have this basic human need to contribute. So you giving, if that feels so good, that's because there's this part of you that it actually fulfills an intrinsic part of what you're wired for, and part of your natural sense of needing things. So it can also be a form of love and connection to give. It can be both, right? These things can be met in more than one way. And one strategy can be applicable to multiple needs. And this is just going to sound confusing if I go too into detail, but so contribution. So this can be donating, this can be helping, this can be giving, this can be serving, creating jobs, developing a product that contributes to, the well-being of society. All of these things can be expressions of the need for contribution. And again, you could identify yourself. That can be part of your identity. Oh, I'm somebody who always helps others, who loves to give, who goes out of my way, will always be a good friend and show up, or, whatever that means for you, can be related to contribution. The next basic human need, growth. So growth is such a high need for me, for example, but growth can come in so many different forms. It can come in personal growth, like personal development work, self-work, learning about yourself, self-discovery, that kind of growth. Learning in general is usually related to the need for growth. Like you feel like you're building knowledge or you're expanding yourself in some way. And another need for career growth is a huge one, right? To feel like you're moving up the ranks or you're getting promotions or, all that kind of stuff, all related to growth. And then another really important one, the sixth basic human need, and they're not really in any particular order, is significance. So it's like me. I like to say like to find meaning and to matter. And so significance can be achieved in a whole bunch of different things, a whole bunch of different ways. Through fame, through feeling you have money or power that can make you feel like you matter, right? And then significance can also have things, that are a lot deeper. So spiritual connection, feeling like you believe in God or the universe or whatever it is for you, or to feel like again, helping people can make you feel significant, that I'm doing something that matters to somebody else. So really you want to think about like meaning and mattering. And this brings me to the next point, and I'm not saying that to want money or to want power are bad or anything like that, but what you want to be aware of is that we can get our needs met in healthy ways or in unhealthy ways. And the brain is wired to get its needs met as quickly as possible, in the fastest, most direct way possible, not in the healthiest and most fulfilling way possible, okay? Because we're still kind of coming from that like survivalistic or like survival-oriented programming. And so if you're not clear and conscious, let's say, about how you're meeting your needs, then sometimes we'll carry what I like to call outdated strategies. So an example of this might be, let's say you have a high need for love and connection. And let's say you and your partner are apart for a few days because you are both busy or one of you is traveling or something. You might feel disconnected. And so guess what? The fastest way, or one of the fastest ways to get really connected really quick, is actually to argue. Because guess what happens? When two parties are arguing and they're engaging their emotions and they're super present in the conversation, and they're really like their emotions are heightened, they're actually quite emotionally connected, which can actually make the brain feel like, hey, we're still in a space where we're getting our need met for love and connection because both parties are fully involved right now. And a lot of times I'll see people with a strong need for love and connection and who, really value emotional connection. I will often see these two parties being people who bicker a lot in a relationship. And because it's just a subconscious strategy to get your needs met as quickly as possible. And so in this case, when we find that we have unhealthy ways of getting needs met or outdated strategies, things that maybe worked once or can work sometimes a little bit in certain ways, but they're not like the highest expression of how we would want to get our needs fulfilled. What we can do is we can update these strategies. So we can take these outdated strategies and we can create updated strategies. So for example, let's say you notice that you feel the need to bicker. And you get that, I just, want to throw a jab or make a passive aggressive comment or whatever it is. If you already know ahead of time that often is something you do when you're feeling disconnected, you can now notice that because you're conscious about it. So when you go to make that comment, you can be like, wait, where is this coming from? Well, it's coming from me trying to engage in an unhealthy way because my need for connection is not being fulfilled effectively. And then you can reach out with an updated strategy, which can be like, hey, to your partner, hey, I really want to sit down and just have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and just chat and reconnect for a little bit because it's been a busy week and I'm feeling disconnected. And our feelings of fulfillment and happiness in ourselves and in our relationships are so much related to our capacity to express our needs and feel like we have self-efficacy and connection between our partners, where we can get those needs met, whether internally or externally through our relationships. So you really, really want to be able to express yourself and get these needs met in the healthiest ways possible, in the most conscious and intentional ways possible, as opposed to what your subconscious might do, which is like, just find a way to get this need met immediately, just get it done, as opposed to like what really works long term without negative consequences or with not a detriment to the relationship. And even like anxious attachment style people, like you can sort of notice that too. You have this need for that love and connection that needs to be so immediate. So you might like reach out and send the 19th text message, or the call the 4th time. And you want to formulate updated strategies in that area, because that's, your nervous system is so wired to get that need met quickly. And there's been such a void there, and such a painful, sort of imprint there, that sometimes we do things that are the fastest way but not the most effective way. And when I say the 19th text message, I'm not in any way like making a joke about or anything like that. Like, maybe it's only the 2nd text message or the 3rd, depending on really how much negative emotion you have stored in your nervous system and in your subconscious because of your painful past experiences, and how much you're creating updated strategies and being conscious and aware about how you try to get your needs met, and if you can create healthier strategies. So that's just one example. So here's how you do this, okay? Because I hope this isn't too much information all at once. I can tend to sort of like put all this information and content out there so quickly, and I will like go back and break a lot of these things down for the different attachment styles specifically, and what the needs are for each one. But the first thing is that we want to learn to be clear about what our needs are. So we need to do a little bit of work ahead of time to prepare, because if we try to guess our needs in the moment and we're not used to doing this, and we're naturally a little bit dissociated from our needs, which most attachment styles just are in general to some degree, then we want to be able to know ahead of time so we can sort of find our way, and not be sort of feeling around in the dark, but actually turn on the lights and then navigate more effectively. So here's the best and fastest way to really get familiar. Take those 6 basic human needs, okay? So I'm going to say them again in no particular order. Certainty, uncertainty, which is really like the novelty, variety, and we really do need both at different times and in different ways, but both, even though they seem contradictory. So certainty, uncertainty, growth, okay, significance, love and connection, contribution. So those are our 6 basic human needs. Rate them in order for you. This is quite a difficult exercise for a lot of people, because we're like, oh, I can't tell between these 2 and this one, and it can be sort of convoluted. Do your best. It doesn't have to be perfect, and if you change your preferences a little bit here and there, it's not a huge deal. So put them in order for what's most meaningful to you. Then next to that, write 2 or 3 ways for each need that you try to get these needs met. So for example, what are 2 to 3 ways that you tend to get your need met for love and connection? Is it through family? Is it through animals? Is it through friendships? Is it through connection to self and relationship to self? Write what it is for you. Is it through, connection to characters in movies or television? Like, we have all these really interesting ways that we get our needs met, and don't judge the ways. Just notice that they exist. And then write 1 or 2 unhealthy ways. What are some unhealthy habits or patterns that I have that try to get this need met that might be in a negative form? So do I tend to, like, one good example is sometimes for significance, if we feel like we don't matter, and we're not getting the need met to matter, and for that sort of feeling of intrinsic meaning. Sometimes like anger can make somebody feel like they matter, because they feel powerful and they feel strong when they express anger. And sometimes, it might be an unhealthy way of getting your need met. And sometimes anger, just the expression of anger, is actually related to unmet needs that you have beneath the surface, and to be heard and understood, which can be related to love and connection, to feel like you matter, which can be related to speaking up, feeling like people are listening to you, feeling like you have power to express yourself. So there's all this like stuff going on beneath the surface. And remember, every single thing that we do is actually a subconscious strategy to get specific needs met. Now, they pass through our beliefs, but we won't talk about that right now. So write them in order again, and then write, some healthy ways that you get these needs met that you're aware of, and unhealthy ways. And your unhealthy ways are really just your outdated strategies, the things that like are not the best strategies. And then take a moment and write beside each one like 1 or 2 updated strategies. So 1 or 2 ways that you can get this need met in a healthier form now that you're conscious about it. So let's say, for example, you notice that, you have this need for control as a means to certainty. And let's say you've noticed, sometimes I push people away because I can become too controlling. So how can I get my need for certainty met without controlling. How can I, what's a way to update myself here? What's an updated strategy so that I don't have to, so I can still have this need met because the need won't go away, but without the detriment or the drawback of pushing people away sometimes. And that's a really fantastic space to be able to look through your different strategies and update them to create healthier versions. Okay, so that's all I'm going to put in this video for now. I will do more about this because it's such a deep topic, and it's a lot of stuff I sort of talk about in the personal development school courses, which we're actually putting online and going to be creating online versions for. We're already in the process of starting. And so we will have those available and have everything broken down in so much greater detail. But in the meantime, like, feel free to ask me questions, because this is one of my favorite topics. In any specific area here that you want me to expand upon, I can even go into like each of the 6 needs and different versions, like some healthy strategies that often people have and some unhealthy strategies that people have, and make like 6 different videos there and how to update them. If that's something you're looking for, let me know. And thank you so much for watching. I love making these videos, and I love all the amazing questions I'm getting, and thank you for all the amazing emails and outreach and just connecting. It's fantastic. So have an amazing day.